Care facilities across New Brunswick. Those measures were taken, of course, as a precaution to increase the safety of early learning educators and children and to address anxiety in those facilities around the COVID-19 pandemic. The department's focus moved to providing emergency childcare to ensure our essential service workers could continue to support New Brunswickers throughout the pandemic. And we understand that childcare is crucial for parents returning to work as we begin to move into the phases of recovery from this pandemic. We know there's a long way to go, but we believe we're on the right track. So opening daycares and early childhood education centres is a community responsibility. Opening up our economy depends on this. So the health and safety, of course, of our staff and our children remains our top priority. We've had a lot of success in recent weeks at flattening the curve of the pandemic, but it is far from over. So departmental staff have been working very closely with public health to develop health and safety guidelines for early learning and childcare facilities, in addition to a plan to support facilities so they can reopen safely. Les services de garde de la petite enfance sont essentiels pour les parents qui retournent au travail à mesure que nous allons de l'avant dans la phase 2 du plan de rétablissement. Évidemment, la santé et la sécurité des personnels et des enfants demeurent notre première priorité. Nous pouvons être fiers au Nouveau-Brunswick d'avoir réussi à aplatir la fameuse courbe au cours des dernières semaines, mais il faut rester vigilant car la pandémie est loin d'être terminée. Le personnel de notre ministère a d'ailleurs collaboré de près avec les autorités de la santé publique pour élaborer des lignes directrices en matière de santé et de sécurité visent les établissements de garderie éducative, en plus d'un plan pour soutenir les établissements afin qu'ils puissent rouvrir en toute sécurité. So this has been accomplished through various consultations with operators across the province over the past few weeks. And during those conversations, the vast majority of operators indicated that they were willing to reopen and would be ready to do so with a little bit of time to prepare. So to ensure that operators have the time to meet all the requirements, the department decided to delay the reopening of licensed early learning and childcare facilities until May 19th. Our early learning and childcare staff have been reaching out to all licensed childcare operators across the province to ensure they are aware of the requirements for reopening and have the appropriate training and support while developing their COVID-19 operational plans. At the departmental level, we've shared information packages, prepared video presentations, conducted information sessions, and provided opportunities for questions. This includes information on how we will ensure operators are supported and that the sector remains viable as we move through into this next phase of our recovery. Everyone has, of course, had lots of conversations about bubbles in recent weeks. And bubbles are connected to the policies around daycares. Staff members' bubbles and each child's household bubbles must remain intact. We have to be vigilant about keeping our 2 household bubbles intact. If folks break the bubble, they risk exposing their bubble to folks in the early childhood education centers and potentially infecting others. So, as you've heard from lots of folks in government in recent days, we're asking you, all of you, to step up for New Brunswick by protecting your bubble, protecting the early childhood education centers, and protecting our economy. These things all go together. The requirements for reopening include developing a COVID-19 operation plan, keeping groups of children separated, enhanced cleaning inside each center, and screening for everyone entering the facility, including parents, children, and staff. To help with addressing the cost of this, childcare facilities will receive a monthly grant of $20 per licensed space to support enhanced cleaning practices until at least the end of June. And those procedures are similar to the ones that have been implemented in the emergency early childhood education facilities that have been up and running for the last couple of months. And the only difference is that group sizes have been slightly expanded for older children who are, of course, better able to follow physical distancing and hygiene practices than their younger colleagues. Younger kids will still adhere to the smaller group sizes as set out in legislation. So moving forward, you're going to need to make sure the members of your bubble understand their responsibility to not introduce risk to each person, each citizen's 2 household bubble, because that could directly affect daycare children, daycare staff, and the sustainability of this sector. Our directive that anyone who has traveled outside of New Brunswick will not be allowed to visit early learning and childcare facilities for a period of 14 days remains in effect. And since travel-related cases are the current risk, please do not allow people who have traveled outside MB to self-isolate in your bubble. Ces procédures sont semblables à celles qui ont été mises en œuvre dans les établissements de garderie désignés d'urgence pour les travailleurs de services essentiels. La seule différence tient à la taille du groupe qui était légèrement élargie pour les enfants plus âgés, ceux qui peuvent mieux comprendre et mieux suivre les mesures de distanciation physique et les règles d'hygiène. Les plus jeunes enfants continueront d'être en petit groupe comme il est annoncé dans la loi. De plus, la directive selon laquelle il est interdit à une personne qui a voyagé à l'extérieur de Nouveau-Brunswick de se rendre dans un établissement de garderie éducative pour une période de 14 jours demeure toujours en vigueur. We're taking every reasonable precaution for the health and safety of anyone attending these facilities, but we also acknowledge the importance of promoting social and mental well-being. So the requirements mean educators will need to be creative in planning group activities. And I want to reassure New Brunswickers, especially our families resuming childcare, that their kids will still be able to have fun, positive, and educational experiences. And that's thanks to the incredible work being done by educators and centers across the province. It's going to include lots of outdoor playtime, holistic learning opportunities, the creativity that we've come to expect from everyone involved in supporting our province through this difficult time. But clearly, this is still not going to be business as usual, and the changes that are being implemented may take some time. Some operators will begin operating on May 19th. We expect staggered openings as we're seeing with other private businesses. We understand as well that some operators may choose not to reopen at this point. As private businesses, that is their choice. And our staff remain committed to working with and supporting childcare operators throughout the coming weeks to answer questions and assist with planning for a safe reopening. And that brings me to why we're here today, because I recognize that there are going to be lots of questions raised as we go through this reopening phase. So today, Nicole, Gervais, the Executive Director for Early Childhood Development, and I think our province's leading authority on early childhood education, and I are here to try and answer some of your questions, which means that Nicole will answer nearly all of them, because it's one thing I've learned in this job, it's to defer to experts, and Nicole is absolutely that. Notre personnel demeure engagé à collaborer avec les propriétaires exploitants des établissements de garderie éducative et à les appuyer durant les prochaines semaines pour répondre à leurs questions et leur aider à planifier une réouverture sécuritaire. Je sais bien que de nombreuses personnes se demandent comment cette réouverture des garderies va se faire dans le contexte actuel. Il nous apparaissait donc nécessaire de tenir cette séance d'information. C'est la raison pour laquelle la directrice générale du développement de la petite enfance du ministère, Mme Nicole Gervais, m'accompagne aujourd'hui pour essayer de répondre à certaines de vos questions. Je vais essayer, elle va les répondre. So before we begin, I want to encourage any parents to communicate with your child care providers to find out more about their individual plans for their centers. I want to reassure families, particularly those financially impacted by the pandemic, that there are supports available for you as well. Information is available online through the parent portal, including the parent subsidy calculator. And for families who've had their fees covered to hold their place due to financial hardship brought on by the pandemic, we will continue to hold your spot for you until the end of June as you prepare to return to work. If you have any other questions or concerns, you can call the department hotline at 1-833-221-9339 between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday to Friday, and our staff will assist you in finding answers as best they can. Je vais répéter ça en français. Si vous avez les questions, les inquiétudes, s'il vous plaît, n'hésitez pas d'appeler le ministère à 1-833-221-9339 entre 7 h le matin et 19 h le soir, lundi à vendredi, et notre équipe va être prête pour essayer de répondre à toutes vos questions. So thank you very much. Happy to take questions now along with Ms. Gervais. Merci de votre écoute. Je suis maintenant prêt à répondre à vos questions.
Nikki Hogarth, Charlotte County TV. Your first question, please.
Thank you. Mr. Cardy, there are cases of children around the world who are experiencing a delayed immune response to COVID-19, a pediatric inflammatory multi-system syndrome. What do you know about this, and are you concerned?
Yes. I mean, I think my position in terms of being concerned about the coronavirus has been pretty consistent for quite a long time. And one of the things that poses risks with a new and emerging disease such as COVID-19 is the fact that we don't yet know a lot about it. We don't yet know the full range of symptoms and the impact that those could have in vulnerable populations. So it's absolutely something that we're monitoring, and we will be consulting with public health and with experts across Canada and around the world, as I've done consistently since the beginning of this pandemic, to make sure we make the best decisions to protect the safety and security of our kids. Je vais juste répéter, je dire à tout le monde, les questions, Mme Gervais et moi, on va répéter nos réponses aux questions en français et en anglais, juste pour aider les journalistes, pour maximiser leur opportunité de nous demander les autres questions. Alors, sur cette question du fait qu'on peut voir que dans beaucoup des coins du monde aujourd'hui, on voit qu'il y a les symptômes imprévus dans les enfants avec le COVID-19. C'est quelque chose qui nous semble absolument c'est inquiétant. On va suivre les nouvelles et assurer que toutes nos décisions sont prises en contexte de protéger la santé et le bien-être des enfants dans nos centres d'éducation de la petite enfance et aussi l'équipe d'éducateurs et éducatrices qui soutient ce système.
Vicky, do you have a follow-up?
Just a quick follow-up, thank you. I'm wondering, will you be implementing regular testing for staff of daycares? Has there been any talk of that?
For that, so basically what I'm going to try and do is answer this as a policy side. Then anything in terms of the specific detailed questions, I'll pass it over to Ms. Gervais, so if I could...
Thank you. Yes, there is a new screening protocol for all of our early learning and childcare facilities. So there's a questionnaire that is attached to the guidance document that was provided by our health department, and it includes a temperature check for all staff, everybody entering a facility, as well as a questionnaire around travel, or if they've been in contact with somebody who has had contact with somebody who has the COVID. More of the exact screening is part of the guidance document that can be referred to. Oui, on a un processus de dépistage pour tous les gens qui entrent dans les services de garderie éducatifs. Ça inclut le personnel, les parents et les enfants, qui inclut un questionnaire que vous voyez fréquemment. Donc, si les gens voyageaient à l'extérieur du pays, de la province, pardon, ou encore s'ils ont été en contact avec quelqu'un qui avait des symptômes de la COVID. Et ça inclut aussi la prise de la température de tout le monde.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. Andrew Wall with the Telegraph Journal. Your first question, please.
Thank you. Minister Cardy, you've been lauded nationally and internationally for reacting so fast to COVID-19 in terms of schools. You've spoken multiple times about how school will look a lot different in September, in part because of the need for physical distancing. Why do we not need physical distancing at daycares, but we do in schools?
Well, you're going to see announcements around physical distancing for schools as well, and we have to recognize the difference between young people of different ages, and so that's the reason for the differentiation there, is that I think anyone who's had any experiences with anyone in that younger age bracket, it is pretty difficult to get toddlers to socially distance. The necessity of reaching out and providing physical affection is something that's hugely important for kids at that young age as well. And so we're trying to do our best to balance the gold standard of maintaining the social distancing for everyone at all times with just the biological reality of young children. Alors pour mon parti de réponse, je pense que c'est pleinement impossible et aussi ça crée beaucoup de difficultés si on essaie de maintenir la distance sociale entre les enfants qui sont vraiment petits. Quand une jeune de 2-3 ans, tu essaies de dire que non, tu ne peux pas venir en 2 mètres avec l'éducatrice ou les autres jeunes, ce n'est pas réaliste. Alors c'est pour ça qu'on a essayé de balancer les besoins biologiques des petits avec la nécessité de protéger la santé et la sécurité des élèves et aussi l'équipe professionnelle dans les centres. Alors ça, c'est la raison pourquoi on a cette structure divisée en 2. Pour les petits, moins de 12 ans, c'est impossible. Pour ceux qui sont 12 ans et en plus, c'est raisonnable, et l'expectation pour les adolescents et les jeunes adultes est clairement différente que pour les jeunes. Mademoiselle Gervais?
Puis, dans les protocoles, les lignes directrices sont très claires de comment les éducatrices en garderie puissent garder la distanciation entre les enfants autant que possible. Il y a un protocole qui exige que les enfants soient rappelés à tous les jours les protocoles d'hygiène, donc tousser dans sa manche, ne pas toucher les yeux, pas toucher les autres. Donc, cette pratique-là va venir aussi de façon régulière dans les services de garde. So yes, there is an extra protocol for early learning and childcare where we are asking educators to help children to understand what the physical distanciation could be and the etiquettes around hygiene, so sneezing in your sleeve or not touching your face and others.
Andrew, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, I do. So yesterday, Dr. Russell, when she was talking about this, she spent quite a bit of time acknowledging the risk of this move. Just looking at this purely from a scientific perspective, Minister, do you on a personal level support this, and does Dr. Russell?
You'd have to ask Dr. Russell. I certainly do. We have to be really honest. And this is something to address everyone in the province on this. This is a shared voyage we are going through here, getting through this pandemic, and it involves risk. The only way we can avoid risk from the pandemic is by embracing a risk that would come from the destruction of our economy, our inability to collect taxes and pay for critical social programs. That is the choice we're facing. So, yes, there are risks. Every stage of reopening in the context of a pandemic that continues to unfortunately thrive outside of our borders involves risk. There is risk of infection, and there is risk of death. And we need to be aware of this. This is not over. And it concerns me, I think, that because we have succeeded so well as a province so far in withstanding the first wave of COVID-19, that we are starting to tend to minimize its potential risks. We have to be aware of those, and we have to bluntly embrace them if we want to make sure we can come out of this the other side of this as a province with a functioning economy, able to provide the social programs that we've come to expect, and rightly so. But if we want to emerge from this with the opportunities to build on what we had before, we have to embrace the risk. And it's going to be something that is going to be difficult and at times painful, but we have to do this. Because the option, if we're going to operate entirely on the basis of containing COVID-19 or eliminating it, is that we all stay at home, socially distanced, for an indefinite period of time, possibly years. That's clearly not going to happen, clearly not realistic or desirable. So we have got to be clear and honest about what we're facing here and the responsibility of everyone in the province to educate themselves on what they can do to minimize the risks and then to move ahead. That's the only way we get through this. En français encore, c'est absolument clair qu'il y a les risques qui sont posés à chaque étape de déconfinement, mais c'est les risques qu'on a besoin d'embrasser parce que sinon, les alternatives et la destruction de notre économie, une inhabilité de payer pour les services sociaux qu'on a besoin, incluant le système de santé. Alors, comme province, on a besoin de décider qu'on va aller en avant, embrasser les risques avec l'information, avec la considération absolument de balance entre la sécurité et les mesures nécessaires pour réouvrir l'économie. Mais pour ceux et celles qui disent que c'est un choix entre la santé et l'économie, ce n'est pas un choix. On a besoin de choisir les deux. Et c'est avec un processus de déconfinement graduel, planifié, implémenté, avec beaucoup d'étapes sécuritaires que nous sommes ici pour discuter aujourd'hui. Alors, je ne veux pas minimiser les risques, mais aussi, j'ai besoin de dire qu'on a besoin de les accepter et assurer qu'on a les mesures en place pour les minimiser. Mais on ne peut jamais éliminer le risque. Je ne sais pas si tu as des choses à ajouter à ça. Non, c'est bon.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Andrew. Mathieu Boiscamon, avec l'Acadie Nouvelle, votre première question, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, bonjour, merci. On sait que dans les critères, vous demandez aux garderies de prendre la température des employés et la température des jeunes avant qu'ils entrent dans la garderie, et vous voudriez qu'ils fassent ça avec un thermomètre infrarouge. C'est pas un outil là, qui est très commun, un thermomètre infrarouge, c'est pas un outil que les garderies ont déjà. Qu'est-ce que vous allez faire avec ça? Qu'est-ce que vous suggérez aux garderies qu'elles fassent en l'absence d'un thermomètre infrarouge?
Merci. Justement, c'est quelque chose qu'on est en train de prévoir. On veut fournir un thermomètre infrarouge, à tous les permis qu'on a dans la province. Donc, ceci devrait être distribué dès la semaine prochaine au service, dès qu'on reçoit la commande. So we do recognize that the infrared thermometers are a bit difficult to obtain. So the province has purchased one infrared thermometer for each of our facilities and will be distributed as soon as we receive the shipment.
Mathieu, avez-vous une suivi?
Oui, merci. Monsieur Cardy, il y a une tonne de mesures pour protéger les enfants et le personnel des garderies agréées. Il y a aussi une subvention pour au moins 2 mois pour les aider avec la COVID. On vient de parler des thermomètres infrarouges. Est-ce que c'est sécuritaire, à votre avis, que les parents continuent d'envoyer leurs enfants dans des garderies non réglementées qui ne font pas l'objet des mêmes mesures que tout ce que vous venez d'annoncer pour les garderies agréées?
Merci pour la question. Ça, c'est le fait qu'il y a les garderies qui ne sont pas réglementées par la province dit que c'est presque impossible pour moi de répondre à la question. C'est possible qu'il va y avoir les mesures de sécurité incroyables ou pas du tout. Alors, je ne peux pas vraiment commenter. I can't really comment on unlicensed centers, given that they are by definition unlicensed. They would be required to follow provincial laws for social distancing, etc., regardless of the specific set of rules that we're discussing here around licensed centers. But as unlicensed centers, they are outside of the department's control. So they could have exceptional measures, they could have none at all. Quelque chose à ajouter?
On a reçu quelques appels au ministère justement des garderies qui n'étaient pas agréées et on leur a présenté toute l'information qu'on donne aux services de garderie agréés. Donc, ils ont accès à la même information et on les a aussi donné l'information pour le travail sécuritaire Nouveau-Brunswick pour qu'ils puissent établir leur plan d'affaires, le plan opérationnel pour la COVID. So we've received a number of calls from unlicensed childcare providers at the department, and we have provided them the same documents that we have provided to licensed facilities so that they can refer to the practices that are recommended. We also provided them information on WorkSafe New Brunswick so that they can call them and have support around their operations for the COVID.
Merci, Ministre. Merci, Nicole. Merci, Mathieu. Silas Brown with Global. Your first question, please.
Hi, Minister. Hi, Deputy Minister. I'm curious about the talk of using babysitters. It comes up very early in the province's guidance document, and that some families may want to consider using a babysitter. But would that babysitter have to be part of their family bubble, or is that another instance where this bubble rule isn't going to apply really?
Pardon. In the guidelines that we have provided to facilities, we do have a section in there about babysitting or private childcare, and we're recommending to families to pick one person and maintain that one person to care for their child. Dans les lignes directrices qui ont été fournies par la santé, il y a une section qui tient sur le gardiennage ou les soins d'enfants privés, et on recommande que ce soit une personne et la même personne à travers les semaines, les jours.
Ça répond directement aux annonces, tous les discours de santé publique. On a besoin de protéger les boules entre deux familles, deux groupes de personnes. Si on commence à briser ça, on va arriver dans une crise assez rapidement. We've got to make sure that we're following public health clear directions around protecting the two bubble systems we've got going in the province, being replicated in other places as well. And that only works if we stick to it. If we start saying, well, maybe not two, maybe three, then things start to fall apart pretty quickly. So 2 bubbles, you have a babysitter in that, that's fine. 2 bubbles, that's it. Or 2 families, 1 bubble. I keep on getting my bubble terminology mixed up.
Silas, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, sorry, I just want to clarify. I'm having some trouble hearing. Minister, did you just say that a babysitter must be part of a 2-family bubble or not? Sorry, I just want to clarify that point.
Yeah, do the same again, Nicole?
As much as possible, that would be the preferred option. In some instances, it might not be, and this is a decision that parents have to make for themselves and look at what's the best solution for their family. Préférablement, ça serait dans les mêmes bulles, les mêmes 2 bulles. Pour certaines familles, ceci n'est pas possible, et c'est pour ça qu'on demande que ce soit la même personne pour réduire le niveau de contact.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Silas. Adila Ibrahim with the CDC. Your first question, please.
Thank you. Minister Cardy, you talked about embracing risk, but different people have different levels of risk tolerance. So what about parents who choose to keep their children home because they don't feel safe? What direction do you have for them and their employers if they have to continue working from home?
Well, they're citizens in a free country and can make decisions based on what they feel is the best interest of themselves and their children. So that is a personal decision they have to make, and their relationship with their employer is also a personal decision. So it really, what I would say there is, again, what I've said to everyone else. This is not without risk. If we avoid all risk, that means we do not do anything in New Brunswick except stay at home until a vaccine or a treatment for COVID-19 is being developed, which is likely to be years in the future. And that is clearly not an alternative, because that would result in the economy crashing, no money to pay for our hospitals to treat people who would have COVID-19 and all the other illnesses that we use our healthcare system to address. So I understand the concerns, and we know we've heard the same thing from educators and from centers, and some of them don't yet feel comfortable, and that's fine. There are some people who were saying within a half an hour of things being closed that we should reopen. So people do have a widely diverging level of risk. The only thing that I can do to try and reassure those parents and families and everyone in the province is that at the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development, we have been consistent in our belief from the outset that this is a dangerous pandemic. That was the reason why we closed schools early compared to nearly any other jurisdiction. why we've been taking steps to try and make sure that we're ahead of this virus. But we embraced risk when we closed schools as a department, and we have to embrace the risks as we reopen early childhood education and move towards restarting school in September. And this is a difficult conversation, but we need to have it as a province because we can't get through this if we all just stay at home. Je veux juste pour répéter encore en français. Je comprends complètement les craintes des parents, des familles qui pensent que ce n'est pas encore assez sécuritaire pour réouvrir les garderies, les centres d'éducation pour la petite enfance. Je comprends. Mais en même temps encore, on a besoin de prendre une décision à un point. Avec aujourd'hui seulement 2 cas actifs dans la province, les 2 basés sur des voyages, aucune transmission communautaire, que pour les prochaines années, les conditions qu'on voit aujourd'hui, c'est probablement le meilleur qu'on va voir. Et au ministère, nous sommes absolument toujours pris avec l'importance de protéger la sécurité des élèves, des enfants et les professionnels dans nos écoles. Et c'est absolument quelque chose qu'on a besoin de continuer de souligner et adresser et créer encore les mesures additionnelles s'ils sont requis. Mais pour aujourd'hui, dans notre jugement, ceci est une étape dans le déconfinement qui présente un risque acceptable. Mais ça ne veut pas dire qu'on va pas voir les nouvelles cas, les morts dans la province. Ceci est une pandémie. On a besoin de prendre toutes nos décisions dans ce contexte. Do you want to answer? Good.
Adil, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, thank you. There's also a lot of pressure on families to begin paying now toll spots for fall. That might be very difficult for low-income, single-income families. Can you tell us a little bit more about this financial aid situation that's going to end by June, and what are you doing for them?
Okay, merci. So we are in close contact with our facilities at the moment to see what exactly will be the outcome. We, at this moment, do not know how many parents will be rejoining the workforce and therefore accessing childcare, or will be making, as you're mentioning, the decision to keep their child home for the summer until schools reopen or other plans can be made. And until we have a clear view of what that is, so we're monitoring that until we know. However, what we have committed to do is until the end of June that we will be continuing with the support for families that have lost income due to COVID-19. So we're going to continue working with that, and we'll be working with our facilities to ensure that parents are aware of this. And this is a very fluid situation, and we're going to be rolling as things come and considering other measures if it is required. Donc, on a mis en place des processus pour la communication directe avec les exploitants des services de garderie pour nous assurer d'avoir une bonne compréhension de qu'est-ce qui se passe sur le terrain et de voir qu'est-ce qui est le comportement des parents. Est-ce que les parents retournent dans les services de garde ou choisissent de garder leur enfant à la maison? Aussitôt qu'on a une meilleure idée de qu'est-ce que c'est, on va continuer à travailler avec nos exploitantes, essayer de voir qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour aider les familles. Présentement, on a continué de soutenir les familles qui ont perdu du revenu en réponse à la COVID ou en cause de la COVID jusqu'à la fin du mois de juin. Et on va continuer à surveiller cette situation-là de près pour nous assurer qu'on puisse venir appuyer aux besoins. C'est une situation qui est très fluide et on continue à faire la surveillance des services.
Minister, thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Adil.
Thank you.
Laura Brown, CTV, your first question, please.
Hi, Minister. There's still a lot of questions out there as to why you're going ahead with this decision at all, or going ahead with this reopening at all. There's a lot of discussion around the fact that schools are remaining closed, and they have the supports in place like custodians, large supplies of sanitizing supplies, security, whereas these are essentially small businesses that are trying to survive, and they're being told that they need to reopen and essentially figure it out. I'm wondering, like, what went into this decision, and how many do you actually expect to reopen, I guess, next week?
I'll ask Sheriff to fill in some parts of your question, the answer to your question there, Laura, but I'll start off by saying that's really not an accurate presentation of the situation we're in. First off, these are private businesses and they can choose to reopen, so they're not being told, I don't have any power to instruct the early childhood education sector to do anything apart from follow the rules we set out. And you're quite right about the difference between a school and the infrastructure supports they have for cleaning and the centres, but that's the reason for this announcement today, that we're talking about $20 per spot, so $20 per student per month, to make sure that we can support the additional cleaning that's required. And it's certainly not a free-for-all. We're sitting here with a very detailed document that I know a lot of operators are already grappling with the complexity of having to address the demands that we're imposing before they can reopen, because those are measures imposed by the need to try and protect our students and the folks who work in these centres as much as possible. So I think I've been fairly clear in the reason why we are moving ahead with reopening. It's important, again, the goal of the province's pandemic response was never to eliminate COVID-19. It's to manage it, to make sure our healthcare system isn't overwhelmed, to make sure that we keep the cases at a level where if people get sick, they can get the excellent care from our doctors and nurses and other healthcare professionals. That is the goal. Until a vaccine or a cure is developed, we will be living with this virus. And as much as possible, if we can keep it outside of our borders, that's fantastic. But we have to assume that it will get back in at some point, probably at different points. And we have to be ready to push it out again. And we have to be ready with the measures that you've heard all of government talking about in recent weeks to have stage levels of reopening and reclosing if necessary. And we want to minimize that as much as possible. And so the consultations that went into this have been extensive over now many weeks, looking at and taking inspiration from other countries, both in terms of what to do and what not to do. And we're going to continue to look for the best evidence around the world to guide our decisions and hopefully contribute to those best practices as well, because New Brunswick so far has been a leader in a lot of ways around the way we've handled this pandemic, and I hope that we can continue. But every time we take a step, we risk tripping, and we have to be realistic about that. There's no shame in it, but that's no excuse for not continuing to walk ahead. So alors, la décision a été prise en contexte du fait que c'est nécessaire. On va vivre avec le virus pour les prochaines années au moins, avant que le développement d'un vaccin, d'une série de drogues pour le traiter, c'est que ça va être une réalité pas seulement pour nous ici dans notre province, mais pour tous les gens partout dans le monde. Jusqu'à aujourd'hui, on a créé comme gouvernement, comme province en grand, une rétaliation contre COVID-19 qui était absolument incroyablement effective. On a survécu jusqu'à ce point la première vague sans aucun mort, un nombre minime de cas d'infection, mais c'est fortement probable que ça va changer. On va voir les deuxième, troisième, probablement les autres vagues du virus. Il est fortement probable qu'on va voir les autres infections et voir les morts. Et on a besoin de dire ça. Chaque fois que je communique avec les médias, avec le public, j'essaie de renforcer ce message que ce n'était jamais le but de notre réaction contre le virus de dire que maintenant ce n'est pas un problème. C'était toujours d'assurer qu'on avait un nombre de cas qui n'était pas trop grand que ça crée une inondation dans le système de santé. Parce qu'on a besoin d'assurer qu'il y a toujours la possibilité, si quelqu'un est infecté avec COVID-19 ou avec les autres maladies, qu'il peut accéder à notre système de santé super et prendre le soin de nos médecins, de nos infirmières, de nos autres professionnels qui travaillent dans ce système. Alors ça, c'est le but. Et nous sommes en bonne position aujourd'hui. Mais encore, on a besoin de continuer de déconfiner si les conditions sur le terrain nous donnent bonne raison pour le faire. Et aujourd'hui, c'est le cas. Si les circonstances changent, on va changer notre manière d'agir. Mais aujourd'hui, c'est le temps de prendre la prochaine étape, malgré le fait que c'est toujours une possibilité qu'on va tomber. Mais on continue.
I think part of your question was around how many facilities are ready to open, and we have heard for about 50% of our facilities, and of those, close to 80% are ready to open on Tuesday. A few are going to be opening over the following 2 weeks. So I think we're in good shape on that end, and we are providing funding right now to help maintain the viability of our facilities, and we're going to continue monitoring that to ensure that that facilities are supported and that we have a childcare sector to revert to or to turn to when all of this is over. Plus tôt dans la question, il y avait une partie qu'on demandait combien de garderies étaient intéressées à ouvrir dès la semaine prochaine. Et on a entendu parler d'à peu près 50% de nos services de garde. Et de celles qui ont répondu, 80%, plus de 80% ouvriront la porte dès le mardi prochain et quelques autres de façon subséquente dans les prochaines semaines. Et on croit qu'on va avoir une masse assez importante de places en garderie. Puis pour ce qui est du financement des services de garde, on continue à fournir de l'aide pour les 2 prochains mois pour les services de garde pour nous assurer qu'elles sont viables et on va continuer à faire la surveillance de cette situation-là pour nous assurer que quand tout ceci sera terminé, que nous avons un secteur de services de garderie qui est solide pour le retour des enfants dans les services de garde.
Laura, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, just a quick one. Mask wearing. I don't see in the document that you're requiring staff to wear masks. Is that correct? And in what case would staff or should staff wear a mask?
Yes, that is correct. So we're not requiring the wearing of masks in childcare, except in situations where a child or an educator gets sick while they are at the facility. Then they need to be isolated. And in the event that they cannot have a 2 meters distance, we're asking that a mask be worn. Parents have 1 hour to come pick up their child to make sure that child is attended to. However, children under the age of 2 should not be have to wear masks. Oui, on a dans les protocoles de santé, on demande que les éducatrices ou les enfants qui deviennent malades pendant qu'ils sont à la garderie, d'avoir une isolation, d'être isolés des autres enfants et des autres adultes dans la garderie. Et si la distanciation de 2 mètres n'est pas possible, l'enfant doit porter le masque ou l'éducatrice doit porter le masque. Sauf dans le cas des enfants qui sont moins de 2 ans, le port de masque n'est pas recommandé.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Laura. Nicole, avec Radio-Canada, votre première question, s'il vous plaît.
Merci beaucoup. Ma question s'adresse au ministre Cardy. J'aimerais juste clarifier qui devra payer les services de garde. Un parent, par exemple, qui décide de garder son enfant à la maison, même si les portes de la garderie sont ouvertes, est-ce qu'il devra payer quand même les frais de garde de son enfant?
Yes, you have to continue to pay if you want to reserve a spot at New Brunswick Daycare.
Est-ce que c'est possible d'avoir la réponse en français, s'il vous plaît?
Ah oui, la réponse, j'ai juste répété la question en anglais, mais oui, la réponse à ton question est oui. Il n'y a pas beaucoup d'ajouter. Si tu veux avoir préserver une siège, une place dans une garderie, dans un centre d'éducation de petite enfance dans le Nouveau-Brunswick, c'est une entreprise privée et il y a les frais que l'entreprise peut demander des parents. Et jusqu'à le temps qu'on a un système pleinement public, ça va être le cas.
D'accord.
Suivi?
Oui, merci. J'aimerais juste rebondir sur les questions de mon collègue. Je me demande est-ce qu'on n'est pas dans un système à 2 vitesses actuellement parce que la province autorise le retour à pleine capacité dans les garderies, des groupes de 15 personnes sans distanciation physique. Les écoles, elles sont fermées. Donc, est-ce qu'on n'est pas dans un système à 2 vitesses là, en ce moment, de sécurité à 2 vitesses?
Juste pour assurer que je comprends les questions, que c'est 2 vitesses avec le système petite enfance et scolaire ou petite enfance et la province en grand?
Petite enfance et scolaire.
OK. Oui, c'est absolument à 2 vitesses. Ça, c'est l'intention. on va prendre le temps entre ici et septembre, quand l'école recommence, de prendre le temps pour assurer qu'il y ait un système qui inclut un nombre d'élèves, d'enfants beaucoup plus grand, plus de 100 000 pour le système maternel à 12, à peu près 30 000 pour les garderies en pleine capacité, que c'est un nombre 3 fois plus grand. Les autres difficultés, aussi d'assurer la continuation de formation, de pédagogie dans les écoles qui ne sont pas là dans le même niveau, la même manière dans les garderies. Et alors, l'intention est de réouvrir le centre petite enfance, prendre l'inspiration de l'expérience de déconfiner les garderies et faire les ajustements quand on continue de développer nos plans pour le déconfinement du système maternel à 12 en septembre. So yes, it is a two-speed reopening. We want to reopen early childhood education centers today. They involve around 30,000 or so students if the system is going at full capacity, as compared to over 100,000 students in the kindergarten to grade 12 program. So it's a different in terms of scale. By starting now, we're able to simultaneously offer respite to parents who have been going through a very difficult time the last couple of months, in many cases having no breaks at all, making sure that we're able to contribute to the reopening of our economy, and making sure that we take lessons from the experience that we gain from reopening the early childhood education sector that will help to inform our reopening of the kindergarten to grade 12 sector when that restarts in September. Je ne sais pas si tu as quelque chose à ajouter. Okay.
Merci, Dominic. Avant qu'on part, y a-t-il d'autres questions before we wrap up? Are there any other questions? If so, I'll go down the list one more time.
Yep.
So, Vicki Hogarth, do you have a question?
Just one final question. Do you have any plans if an outbreak does occur? Is there an action plan in place? Will you be shutting down just the facility or reconsidering opening up the entire daycare system?
So I'll ask Gervais to handle that question.
So in the guidance document from the Department of Health, there is an outbreak management plan. And I want to underscore the fact that our early learning and childcare facilities are used to this type of process. It is something that they have in their documents to manage outbreaks of any kind. But there is some guidelines in there that you can refer to, and of course, if there's a child or an educator while at the facility that present 2 or more of the symptoms or just the purple fingers and purple toes, must be sent home and call 811 and follow the direction. In the event that there's more children or educators who are diagnosed with COVID-19, then public health will come in and direct the operations on what to do next. So it will be up to public health to decide how closures of facilities will be. Dans les lignes directrices qui ont été fournies pour les services de garde, il y a un protocole qui est particulier sur la propagation durant la pandémie. Et les services de garde sont habitués de soutenir ce processus-là dans les temps habituels. Donc, pour eux, ce n'est pas quelque chose de nouveau. Dans ce cas ici, si un enfant ou une éducatrice développe des symptômes de la COVID, 2 ou plusieurs de ces symptômes-là, ou si les enfants ont les doigts et les orteils de couleur mauve, ils doivent immédiatement être isolés, d'être retournés à la maison et d'appeler 811 et de suivre les directives qui sont fournies par la santé. Et dans le cas où un test positif de la COVID-19 vient dans ces situations-là, santé va suivre leur protocole et informer les services s'ils doivent fermer ou non.
Thank you, Vicki. Andrew Watt, do you have a final question?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. I'm looking for a little bit of clarity here. I may have just misheard this, but can you run through the physical, like you were talking about physical distancing rules and masks. I heard that staff wouldn't be required to wear masks, like unless somebody got sick. And you were talking about how physical distancing rules should be observed, but we're in those groups of 15 or less. So I'm not sure if I just misheard that. If you could explain it again. Thank you.
So I'll ask Mr. Gervais to take the question, but we can also make sure that we send you, so we have some graphics and other things that we've provided to the operators, which we'd be happy to make sure we send to you right after the press conference. Daniel,
So where the masks are not required for staff or children in facilities unless during the day a child or an educator develops any of the symptoms, then they must be isolated. In facilities, sometimes there is a place where a child can be put in a room by themselves, well, under supervision, of course, but away from the other children. And in some facilities, that is not possible. So in those instances, when the child cannot be distanced from other children, then they must wear a mask. Same thing with the educators. The wearing of the mask is not recommended for children under the age of 2, so then physical distancing from other children and other adults must be done. So this is part of the operational plan that our facilities are to develop and put in place, so all of the staff know of the protocols, and parents are invited to ask their facilities to see their operational plan and to see how things would be happening in the facility. Dans les lignes directrices pour les services de garderie, on indique que si pendant la journée un enfant ou une éducatrice développe un ou deux ou plus de symptômes de la COVID-19, ou seulement les doigts et les orteils mauves pour les enfants, de s'isoler, d'être isolé des autres enfants et des autres éducatrices. Dans certains services de garderie, il y a une salle où est-ce qu'on peut emmener les enfants pour les isoler des autres. Dans d'autres situations, ce n'est pas possible. Dans les situations où ce n'est pas possible, on demande le port du masque pour protéger les personnes qui sont autour de cet enfant-là ou de l'éducatrice.
There are issues around wearing masks for small children, as Nicole was pointing out, and it's again the same reasons why we have different rules for younger kids compared to the rest of the population, is because they're younger kids and they have different things they're able to do and not do, and taking a mask on, putting it off, playing with masks renders the mask worse than useless, encourages people to touch their face. So there are a whole lot of safety reasons behind this. This isn't a loosening of rules, this is making sure that we're making decisions based on age-appropriate criteria. Alors, il y a les vrais risques de demander à les jeunes de porter les masques à cause du fait que si les masques ne sont pas des tailles correctes, si aussi ils jouent avec le masque et commencent à toucher leur visage, ça peut créer encore les autres problèmes. Alors, les restrictions qui sont ici pour les jeunes sont absolument différentes que pour le reste de la population, mais ça c'est pour une raison concrète que les jeunes sont différents. Alors, on a besoin de prendre des décisions basées sur l'âge du secteur de la population qu'on discute. Alors, ça c'est les raisons pourquoi il y a les différences ici entre les petits et même les jeunes plus âgés.
Minister, thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Andrew. Mathieu Roquemont, avez-vous une dernière question?
Non, ça va, merci.
Silas Brown from Local, do you have a last question?
Yeah, just quickly, as I've been talking to operators, some have raised concerns over the financial impact. I know everybody's obviously feeling that, but with a lot of kids potentially not coming back, they're losing out revenue there, while overheads also are getting larger in some cases. Is this on the department's radar? And if so, is there anything that you feel that you could do to help out in this situation?
Well, that's absolutely on our radar, something we're very concerned about. And I want to use this opportunity in answering your question just to thank the educators and the center owners and operators the last couple of months for their tenacity and sticking with the business in a difficult time. Most people don't get into early childhood education to make a lot of money. They do it because they have a passion for looking after kids and for helping them start their lifelong, hopefully lifelong journey of learning, and we need to celebrate them for that. Yes, we're very concerned about the financial impact. one of the things that we put in place during the initial phases of the pandemic was the support for any parents who lost an income, to making sure that they were able to maintain their spot in an early childhood facility. And I'm hopeful that as centres get up and running, the parents will take advantage of those spots. If they're not, they'll be continuing to support that spot as long as they want to keep it, as long as the centre is open. And so we're anticipating a lot more stability than I think that either Gervais or I were expecting a couple of months ago, thanks to the leadership of the centres and also the tolerance of parents who have expressed in no uncertain terms, in some cases, their frustration at having to pay for spots they're not using. And it was gratifying that only around 30% of centres didn't either reduce or eliminate their fees completely for parents during the time that the system was broadly shut down. And again, I think that speaks to their commitment to trying to help the province move on to the next stage of recovery and surviving this pandemic. Souligner enfin aussi, juste pour remercier les éducateurs et éducatrices, les gens qui gèrent les centres, pour tout leur travail, aussi la patience des parents qui, dans certains cas, absolument, et pour des raisons que je peux bien comprendre, ennuyés, qui avaient besoin de continuer pour les places dans les garderies, qui n'étaient pas capables d'utiliser à cause du fait que les garderies étaient fermées. Je suis heureux que c'était à peu près 30% des garderies qui n'ont pas réduit ou éliminé complètement les frais chargés aux parents, mais en même temps, je sais que pour certaines familles, c'était un point de difficulté. Maintenant, j'espère qu'avec le déconfinement des systèmes d'éducation de la petite enfance, on va voir les jeunes retourner aux garderies, les centres continuer de travailler, et il va nous aider comme province de survécu à cette pandémie.
As mentioned earlier,
The department staff will be in contact regularly with our operators to get a pulse of what's happening. We do want to make sure that they can be sustained through all of this, and we'll be keeping a close contact with them to make sure that we understand that piece of the financial impact on them, and working hand in hand with our operators to find some solutions. Donc, tout au courant des prochains mois, on va garder un contact assez rapproché avec les services de garderie éducatifs, les exploitantes, pour nous assurer justement qu'il y a une viabilité de ces services. Et nous souhaitons que, à travers ces conversations-là, qu'on aura une bonne compréhension de qu'est-ce qu'est l'impact et de prévoir des mesures en collaboration avec elles pour nous assurer une viabilité des services de garderie éducatifs.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Silas. Nabil Ibrahim, do you have a final question?
Yeah, can you tell us, sorry if this was asked before, but can you tell us what will happen, what the protocol is if or when there is an outbreak in a daycare?
So if there is a situation of, I'm just referring to the document, when there is a child that has been diagnosed with a communicable disease, so not only COVID-19, but any other communicable disease, public health is informed, and then public health takes action on the measures that need to be put in place. So it could be isolating the child, it could be, or the educator, it could be a shutting down of the facility. We don't know, it's all depending on each of the situations, but public health will be guiding the facilities as to what will be happening with that particular situation. Dans les lignes directrices qui nous ont été fournies pour la gestion des maladies contagieuses, c'est un processus qui est régulier pour les services de garderie, pour toutes les maladies contagieuses. Dans ce cas ici, dès qu'un enfant ou une éducatrice a été identifié comme ayant été affecté par la COVID-19, Santé publique est informée et eux prendront les décisions suite à leur analyse pour voir si la garderie doit fermer ou d'autres mesures doivent être mises en place.
Thank you, Nabil. And that is all the time we have for today. So thank you for your questions. Merci pour votre question.
This is Rogers TV, New Brunswick.